this is Regina. Oh, yeah. Oh my God, you can call me Dottie. Call me Dottie. Stanley is the worst boss I've ever worked with. Oh my God, guys. He asked me to get him a cappuccino, and so I get him a cappuccino, and I bring it and I put it on his desk, and he slaps it off his desk, and the shit goes flying all over the wall, and he's like,
"Get out of here, you stupid bitch!"
And I'm like, oh my God, guys, help me! He's the worst boss I ever worked.
Shut up!
Shut up! Give me that phone, Regina. Oh my God, I'm gonna fire you. You know what? This is your last day. You better clean out your desk and whatever that is. You better clean out the shit in it. And you're no longer working here for me anymore. I got the #1 radio station up here, and I ain't gonna let somebody like you, who's incompetent, who can't even get me a right cappuccino. I can't have this. You're gone. Clean out your desk by the end of the day. I don't want to see you anymore. Oh my God. Stanley, you're a wretched thing.
You stupid prick! You thought Regina's real. Regina's not real. Regina ain't real, guys.
Oh my God. He's out of his mind. He's out of his mind, guys. Help me. Help me.
Right, my lovelies. Hello, welcome. Hey, guess what day it is? It is Friday, babies. Yes, it is. Ladies, lords, and lads and dudes. And, well, it may be Saturday for some of you, but it's Friday for me. Anyway, I hope you're having a beautiful Friday. We are coasting on into the weekend, I hope. Coasting, baby, coasting. Hey, what are we doing? Well. Before we jump back into Miss Dillon, oh my God, I have to cross myself. Yes. And I have a holy water right next to me as well, because when I run into some bullshit, which is pretty much all of what she's saying, I have to sprinkle the screen with it just to perform an exorcism, okay? Yeah, that's how I feel about it. And anyway, we're going to jump back into this soon, all right? And I want to finish her off. Today. I want to finish this off with her today because there's so many other things to get to. First of all, the ISP forensic documents. I have not barely even looked at any of that. That's where all the good stuff is with her bloody clothing. That kind of stuff. The knife sheath. Right. That looks clean as a whistle. Except we're testing the smallest possible portion of it. Anyway, no, we haven't even gotten there yet, guys. Oh my God. And then nonsense behind any of that. And nor any of their DNA analysis or anything else in that massive document. We're getting there. And I want to say this. Welcome to all the new people who have joined here, subscribed, and become a part of the garden, love. Welcome. And everybody else who's been here. Well, I appreciate it all. What I want to do in this one before we jump back into Dylan again here is I've got some thoughts running through my brain, and so I'm like, I want to do a video. Okay, first of all, number one, I might forget them. Yeah, that's a strong possibility. And number two, I want to flesh out some things with you guys. Okay, flesh some stuff out here. All right, and we are playing in the mud, so I have to make that clear here. This is mud territory. And what does that mean? That means we are conjecturing, we are speculating, we are dabbling in opinions more than normal, okay? Not based on document, all right, and not based on interview. So whatever, you guys, okay. So there you go. This is playing in the mud. We've done this before. There's a couple of videos of this playing in the mud, right? Good mud, bad mud, fine. The trick with the bad mud is we don't want to stay in the bad mud too long. Or what happens? We never get out of it, okay? That's conspiracy world, conspiracy land, whatever. We can dabble in it. But we don't want to stay there very long, okay? Or else we may never leave it, okay? And then we don't have any more perspective on things. All right, that's the rules. All right, but anyway, so, and I'm going to do some writing because I know you guys love that. Playing in the mud. Here we go. So I don't know how many we did of this. Playing in the mud. Playing in the band. Oops. I don't know. This is 3. maybe. We've done a bunch. Okay, what do I want to start with? This is going to be maybe a little all over the place. I hope not, but there's a few things here I want to throw out to you guys. Okay, a few things I want to throw out to you guys. Now, one of you here, Lisa, you have mentioned a few times, several times in the comments about this didn't happen on Saturday into Sunday. And it seems like you feel very strongly about that this happened actually on Friday, not Saturday into Sunday. It happened Friday into Saturday. And you've made a bunch of comments like that. I'm like, okay. So I decided to think about that, right? So so we're going to start there. So number one here. Number one. Let's say this happened on Friday into Saturday. I'm just entertaining this. Let's say this happened Friday into Saturday, not Saturday into Sunday. Well, what does that mean then? Well, what does that mean? What do we have to show then? If this did indeed occur the day before, right? What we were told when it happened, what do we need to show then for Saturday though? See, here's where we possibly run into problems with this. Here's what we're going to have to show then to me, to the public, to everybody. We're going to have to show what Saturday events. We're going to have to show the events of Saturday here, which would include the people who were unalived. Right? So what we're going to have to do here, we're going to have to fabricate an entire day here. Right? So if we're saying this occurred Friday and the Saturday, right? Well, the girls and Ethan are gone. Well, then we're going to have to fabricate this entire day of them being still alive, so on and so on and so on. So first of all, is that realistic? Is that realistic? I mean, I don't know. We'd have to do that, though. We'd have to create essentially an entire day here. A story for the entire day, which would include somehow showing that the victims were still around. I mean, excuse me, yeah, that they were still around here on Saturday. So all the stuff, again, I don't know how realistic is that. But then I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, first of all, how difficult would that be? I don't know. It depends. It depends here on a few things. See, that's difficult, guys. I think that's difficult because we have multiple witnesses saying, not just Dylan and Bethany, okay? If it was just limited to Dylan and Bethany, then maybe it happened on Friday and Saturday. But we have multiple people saying that they saw Xana and Ethan, and there's footage of Kaylee and Maddie down at the corner club. And supposedly there's footage of Kaylee and Maddie at the grub truck. Right? Right. However, if you want to play in the mud, which is what we're doing right now, we could do this kind of stuff. We could say this. Now, guys, what are we doing? This is the mud. We could say all the footage that we see from Saturday night, all the footage from them Saturday is either A, not from Saturday, that's actually from Friday. It's actually from Friday. That's one. So, then that's one thing we'd have to say. We'd have to say everything that we see of the girls, and Ethan or everybody, we'd have to say that's Friday. So all the witnesses or all the people claiming to see Xana and all of them, we'd have to say either A, they're mistaken, that it was actually Friday, not Saturday, or they're all lying. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure. No, listen, I'm not saying some of them aren't lying. Sure, they are. Of course, especially Dylan, okay, and Bethany, and Hunter Johnson, and whatever. But I'm just saying, would all of them, though, be mistaken about when they saw them? That's a little bit much for me. That's a little much for me. Yeah. However, I was thinking more about the grub truck stuff. Yes, there's that new bit of video that came out about the grub truck, about the girls walking to the grub truck, and how it didn't look right, and all this. I don't know if that's AI. I don't know. Possibly. But the grub truck. There's something else, though, with the grub truck, I feel. Not just everybody there's a weirdo and maybe had it out for them. No. I get that. But there's something else that was bothering me about that. And then I'm starting to think about, well, we see them at the grub truck. And we see them ordering food, the mac and cheese, and so on. But, and then I'm like, well, I don't know. If this thing happened on Friday, then that footage needs to come from Friday, not Saturday. And this was a Twitch stream, supposedly. Right? They have a Twitch stream there. So the Twitch stream would have to be from Friday into Saturday, not Saturday into Sunday. So the Twitch stream would have to be wrong. Right? The Twitch stream would have to be off by a day. Is that possible? I don't know. Is that possible? Could you fake that? In other words, could you fake a Twitch stream to make it look like one day versus another day? Is the question here. I don't know. I don't know how possible that would be if you could do that. I don't even know how possible that would be to do that. If it's streaming live, supposedly streaming live, how could you alter that to make it reflect a different day instead of the day that you supposedly are seeing it? I don't know about that. To me, that sounds like I don't know. Sounds like it'd be a lot of work to try to do that. I don't know though. I'm not a computer expert here, or I'm not an expert in deceiving things digitally, digital deception. So, I don't know. Then I was like, well, what if what we're seeing at the grub truck of the girls, what if that's not even them? Like, what if that's not even real? What if that isn't, what if what we're seeing at the grub truck with Maddie and Kaylee and Jack, what if that's actually taking place somewhere else, like at the corner club, and they were put in there at the grub truck to make it appear like they're getting food and stuff. What if that's possible? I don't know. I don't know. See again, how difficult would it be to do something like that? To take their image and their actions from a different location and create them being at the grub truck. I don't know. But then if you say, yeah, maybe that's happened, well, then you have to account. Then you have to account for, well, Dylan's a liar. We know this. But then you're going to have to assume, again, well, Dylan does lie. So, I don't know. Dylan is completely making up the grub truck the Saturday into Sunday. That's completely made up. That will go along with Bethany. She would also be lying here. That's for sure. So they would definitely be lying about that. That the grub truck never happened at all. Right? It never happened. They didn't even go, there was no grub truck. Maddie and Kaylee were never at the grub truck. But then we'd also say, well, then Eric's lying, the Uber driver, because he supposedly picked him up from there. So he would be lying. Right? Even if we were to say, well, this happened on Friday into Saturday, well, then still it applies, right? Dylan would be definitely lying about it. We know she lies, but that's separate. But Dylan would be lying about it. Bethany would be lying about it. Eric, the Uber driver, would be lying about it. Yeah. Everybody who saw them at the grub truck on Saturday, supposedly Saturday, but this actually happened Friday, they'd all be lying about it. All of them. They'd say, well, then you ask yourself, well, why? Why would they lie about one day versus another day? No. That doesn't work for me. I mean, it's interesting to think about that, they weren't actually ever at the grub truck. That's interesting to consider. It really is. And what we're seeing there of that footage is not real. It's from a different location. And the way they're placed in the footage makes it appear that they're there at the grub truck and ordering food, when in fact they are at a different location, such as the Corner Club, doing the exact same things that we see them doing on the grub truck video. That's what we'd have to see here. And we don't have a comparison yet to do that. And I wonder why that is, actually. See, you guys know this. The Corner Club has 2 separate video cameras that were operating that night, and they recorded. And that video footage exists. It does. It exists. We haven't seen it yet. So, when that comes out, the very first thing I want to do is any video of Kaylee and Maddie at the Corner Club, I would like to compare that against the video that we see from them at the grub truck. And if we see them doing and acting in the exact same fashion, well, then we know there's a fucking problem. Then we know one of those 2 videos is not real. Because there's no way they're going to be there's no way their behaviors are going to be exactly the same in both locations. It's impossible. So we don't have that comparison yet. But that's what I'm going to be doing when that comes out. Definitely. Because, again, if they're doing the same things in both videos, and you say to yourself, wait a minute, that looks like the exact same grub truck. That looks like just like what they were doing at the grub truck. Well, then we have a really big problem. Big problem here. Big problem. Not that we don't have any, big problems now. I'm just saying that's another big problem here. Because both videos can't be the same, right? They can't be doing the same stuff in both videos. No, possible. All right. The second thing I wanted to touch upon, I hope that sort of made sense, guys. I mean, but I hope you understand what I'm saying about if this actually happened Friday into Saturday, we'd have to fabricate the entire day. You know what I mean? Everyone would have to be either lying about seeing the girls and Ethan, yada, yada, yada. I think that would be much more difficult to do. You'd have to fabricate the entire day. I think that would be a little hard here. I think that would be too much. Anyway, that's one. The second thing I wanted to mention was this. And this is another thing I've been kicking around here. So, this one's interesting too. This one's very interesting. And I'm going to start with this. How do I start this? Well, I'm going to start with this. And again, this is not anything that you guys really haven't mentioned before, So here's what I want to start with. First of all, who actually found the bodies? Who actually found the bodies first? That's what I want to start with. Yeah. So who actually found the bodies? That's my first question. And then my second question to that is, well, when were the bodies found? When were they found? When were they found? Yeah. That's my next question here. Yeah. I'm sensing some things around this here now that I haven't considered before. So, who actually found the bodies? And when were they found? Here. Who and when? Yeah. Why? Why am I asking that? Why? Well, the more I think about what we see in the 911, the arrival of the officer, the arrival of Nunez, all this, that's what made me start thinking about this more here. We know the 911 call is fictitious in a sense that it's a reenactment. Yes, indeed. That is for sure, because that's in the documents. Hitler even goes along with it. We know. But Hitler even goes along with it in his order. This is a reenactment. The 911 is a reenactment. It is. It is. We know this. We know this. All right? We have Hunter Johnson telling the girls to get out of the room and to call 911, right? So then the question is, then why are we hearing that on the 911 call? Yeah, bye-bye, bye-bye. That destroys this, right? So therefore, I'm going to say, yes, that's a reenactment, because we should not be hearing that at all. It's called a time problem. That's a big time problem. Not only is it a time problem, but it's a continuity problem. So not only do we have a time issue, we have a continuity issue. And in the movie business, we don't want this in our film. No. Guys, think about film. Well, you know this, you're my guard. But think about watching a movie. What don't we want to see in a movie? Well, think about, you remember the Game of Thrones? You remember that? And do you remember in one of the scenes there was like a Starbucks cup in the middle of one of the scenes that they left in by accident? That's what I'm talking about here. We don't want to see those things, but we do here in this. So we see a time problem and we see a continuity error. Continuity error. Yes, we do. And that's why it's a reenactment. Yes, and that is true. Because again, why? Because we should not be hearing Hunter Johnson on the 911 call telling the girls to get out of the room when he already did that before they called 911. It's as simple as that. So there you go. Okay? Yeah, there you go. That's how that is explained. Quite easily. Very easily. So then I was thinking, okay, since we have a time and continuity problem with the 911, and then we get Nunez arriving on scene, right? That right? Well then, we already got a time problem, a continuity error, and then then the scene carries, and then the action, it's like, okay, we think of this as a movie. So Nunez, the next scene, if you will, right, Nunez comes on scene. Yeah. And you're correct. We hear Dylan say weird shit, like, well, she says a lot of weird shit anyway. But we have Dylan is slipping up in her lines. She slips in her lines. And we have Hunter Johnson as well. He slips in his lines in the house. He slips up his lines in the house with Nunez. The cops also mess up their lines to some degree. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But the biggest ones for me right here are Dylan and Hunter. They mess up their lines. And it's quite obvious. It's glaring, actually. Yeah. Yes. So then I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, why are they saying this weird shit? when in fact, they shouldn't be saying any weird shit like this at all. Because then I'm thinking, because this isn't real either. right? Look, the 911 call, that whole thing, that's a reenactment. We know this. I just gave you the reason why, and it makes sense. It's 100% iron proof. It's ironclad. The other piece of this is, well, since we can't trust that, well, I can't trust what I'm seeing about the Nunez and the cops arriving and doing their stupid shit. I can't trust that at all either. No. And what also gives it away, though, is Dylan. She slips up in her lines, and Hunter slips up in his lines. Yep. And then, here's what I'm going to go to, and I'm going to leave it right here, guys. This is just playing in the mud, things I wanted to get out before I forgot them, okay? And to see what you guys thought about it. That's what so Screamin' Stanley made a post about going with the second draft of the script. Okay. But the original draft of the script, the original draft is this. This is part of it. In order to explain to the public, we're going to have to go in this direction. In order to explain to the public, the press, the public, me, you, the press, right? In order to explain why we have an 8-hour time delay, well, we're going to have to think of something. Yeah, because everybody, and everybody did, they jumped all over that. Well, why was there such a delay in the time? Yeah, and we still do. And that's right. And they still can't get around this. They try, but you still cannot get around this logically. You can't. But they tried. And their original draft that they were going to give to us in the press, it didn't have anything to do with a passed out roommate. It had nothing to do with that at all. The original script had nothing to do with seeing Xana passed out. Nothing to do with that at all. Nope. Forget about that piece. That was not part of the script, the original script. This whole thing about Xana being passed out in her room, blah, 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 and Dylan seeing her running down to Bethany's room, blah, blah, blah. That was not the original script. Nope. That's the second script here. That's the second draft. And you can tell that because, first of all, this doesn't make any sense. Dylan's whole entire story behind this doesn't make any sense. In fact, Dylan's entire narrative of the events of that night, they don't make any sense at all. But they decided to go with the second draft. The first draft doesn't have any of this shit in it. The first draft, and this is usually the case when it comes to certain movies, is the original script. The original script. They should have went with the original script, but they didn't. They went with the second draft. Yes, they did. They went with the second draft. And this draft made much less sense than this draft, than the original script. Okay? Yup. So, what's the original script, you ask me? Well, I'm going to give you part of it, pieces of it, what I think. And I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to stop it here. First of all, okay, here we go. The original script, and I'm going to just leave it here. Remember in the house, Hunter Johnson is in the house with Nunez, right? And we hear Hunter Johnson say this. He says, we got a 911 call, about someone throwing away an animal. That's what he says to me. But I definitely hear because somebody was throwing away an animal. Guys, that was the original script of how police were going to be originally dispatched to the house. That's how that was supposed to go here. They were not supposed to be coming over for an unconscious roommate. That was not part of the plan. The original plan was police were going to be called over to the house. due to somebody seeing somebody throwing away an animal from their house. Somebody was going to call 911 to report that, and that's how the police were originally supposed to get to the house. The front door was going to be open, and it was. And now I'm thinking the police were the ones that were going to go in there. Hey, we got a report to somebody, possibly, throwing out a dead animal or blah, blah, blah. And that's how it was originally supposed to go here. Yeah. But something changed here. Something changed here. And Hunter Johnson, this is his screw up here. Nobody told Hunter Johnson that the script had changed. Nobody told him that. So he was still operating under the original script, but he didn't know it. And that's why it doesn't make any sense of what he's saying here about someone throwing away an animal. Because nobody told him it was going to be about Xana, not the dog. See? Anyway, we're playing in the mud. Just keep that in mind, guys. We're playing in the mud. But I want you to think about this. Really. Because why else would Hunter Johnson say something like that in the house? Because somebody was throwing away an animal. That's what he says in the house. That has nothing to do with Xana. That has nothing to do with an unconscious roommate. Not at all. Nope. And again, Murphy. Now, then I start to think to myself, wait a minute. Did Murphy actually survive this or not? Then I start to think, wait a minute. The original Murphy, Kaylee's, Murphy, her dog in real life, did he even survive this? And then I'm starting to think he didn't. That's where I'm going with this now. Now I'm thinking, wait a minute. Is the dog that we see being let outside the house, is that actually Murphy? Or is this a dog that one of the officers grabbed from the pound, stuck it in there, or one of them did, either the cops or one of the fucking roommates, or Hunter or whatever, one of them had to have gotten another dog and put it in there. Because we see a dog being let out of the house on a leash, and we're supposed to think that's Murphy. But then I'm like, is that Murphy? Is that really Murphy? Because here's the thing. Murphy should have been killed as well. Yes, because he's going to be a nuisance to you. So either he should have been killed, or, correct, they should have got rid of him in some other fashion. Permanently. Not just let out to go to the bathroom. No. He would have had to have been taken away from the house, far away, to not be a nuisance. I'll leave you right there, my loves. Then we'll jump later on right back into Dylan's crap. And I want to finish her off. And get on to other things here. But we can't. Hey, Dylan is our prime. So I don't want to rush it. With her. But all these other things are calling. Anyway, I love you. I hope you like this. This is Playing in the Mud. I don't know what part. I'm going to say Playing in the Mud. We're just going to call it Runes. Okay? Like Led Zeppelin 4. We're going to call this Runes. Okay. I love you all, babies. Hope you're having a great, beautiful day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.